Hey everybody, it's me, Cyrus. Welcome back to the channel. This is a channel where we like to just have some fun, hang out, talk old school retro Intellivision and new Intellivision and a lot of other stuff too. In fact, today I'm going to be sort of mixing some Atari into the mix here because we're going to be comparing different versions of some games, some multi-plat games that came out on various different platforms. So what we're going to look at is 3 games that I want to compare this time. We might do this again with different games, but we got 3 different ones that we're going to look at this time and multiple versions of them. First game we're going to look at is Centipede, and this is a new game to me, at least the Intellivision version. I never owned this when I was a kid. I've never owned it before until very recently. Picked this up very cheap. It's not an expensive game. And this particular version of Centipede is pretty good. It's actually not too bad, but how does it compare to some of the other versions? Well, I have, the Intellivision version of Centipede. Also have the 7800 version of Centipede. And I do have my 7800 sitting over here. Also have the 5200 version of Centipede. Now, I have a problem with my 5200. I hadn't played it in quite a while. And unfortunately, if you don't play it like all the time, something weird goes on with the controllers and the membranes inside the controllers and the potentiometer inside the 5200 itself. It's a beautiful system. I love it. I have a pretty good collection of 5200 cartridges, but unfortunately, it's a little difficult for me to play this console right now. I can turn it on, I can fire it up, it looks great, but controlling the games is kind of an issue. So what I have elected to do is, instead of playing the 5200 version of this in my comparison video, I played the Atari 8-bit computer version on my XEGS, which I have sitting over here as well. And I have one of those flash carts with all the games you could ever want for the XEGS. So I'm able to play a lot of games I wouldn't otherwise be able to. So we'll take a look first at the comparison here for the multiple different versions of Centipede. Let me bring this up and we'll just take a look at it. Okay, so first off, here's the 2600 version of Centipede. Now, I don't own the cart for this, but what I do have is an Atari Flashback console. So this is actually from that. This is from the Flashback 5 that I have. And this is like your very basic version of Centipede. This is the 2600 version. I did, I don't own the cart for this, but I did check, and this is that actual version. I only mention that because there's I have 2 different Atari Flashback consoles. I'm gonna pause this for just a second, and I want to come back real quick, and I'm going to show you these 2 consoles that I have. So I have this one, and then I have this one. Okay. Now this is the nicer one. It's newer. It's the Flashback 5 Gold. It has HDMI. It does work with regular controllers and everything. This is a Flashback 2. It's not HDMI. It's only AV. They have different games. This has a lot more games, but this loads super fast. It's just different, right? So this doesn't have the same stuff as that, but this has some strange stuff. Like I mentioned earlier that I have the 7800 version of Centipede. Well, there's a version of Centipede on here that I wanted to show you because it's sort of the 7800 version, but not really. We'll get to that in just a second. Let me bring this back up, and we'll continue taking a look. So there's the 2600 Centipede running right there. And like I said, it's very basic. Now here is the XEGS running the 8-bit computer version of Centipede. And this is basically exactly the same as the Atari 5200 version. The only difference with the 5200 version is its analog control. But graphically, sound, general gameplay, it's all the same as far as that goes. So this is, for all intents and purposes, the same as the 5200 cart that I have. Although I will say I think the 5200 puts out a little bit better color than my XEGS. As clear, as crystal clear as that picture is on my 8-bit computer, it's just not quite as colorful. So I can never be happy. But as far as a version of Centipede, it's definitely an improvement over the 2600. Now here's the 7800 version. This is a really good version of Centipede. This particular version has really good detail, really a really good frame rate. It has really good sound effects. It's a really fun, a really nice version of Centipede. I really like it a lot. It's probably my favorite. I do like the 5200 version, but yeah, graphically and everything, you gotta admit this is a pretty good upgrade in a lot of ways. The sound is just so much better in this version. Now, who doesn't love Centipede? Now, sure, there's other versions out there of Centipede as well, but, you know, I'm just comparing what I have access to as far as this type. I think these are good versions to compare. Now, here's the version that I was telling you that's on that little Flashback 2 console. And it's sort of like the 7800 version. But as you can see, there are some definite differences. This is not the 7800 version. The graphics are different, the sound is different, the animation frame rate is different. It's very similar. I wouldn't even say that this is emulated. I'm not sure what's up with this version. It's like they redid it. I'm really not sure. It's very similar to the 7800 version, but it's definitely different. But it does play good. It's fun and it plays good, so it's not bad. It's just, it's not my favorite, but it's not bad. Now here's the new one that I just got. This is on the Intellivision, and this is Centipede. Alright, now graphically, you have to compare this. I guess you would compare this to the 2600 version, and it's way better than that. It's way better than the 2600 version. But I think all of the other versions are better graphically and sound and everything. Gameplay, it's fine. Gameplay is really good, actually, with the Intellivision controller. But the 7800 version, obviously, is a lot better than this. And I think the Atari computer version is better than this, too. But this is a respectable version of Centipede. Especially, like I said, when you compare it to the 2600 version. You know, I think it's definitely comparable to that. Okay. So next up, yes, I made these into little videos so we can kind of look at them. Next up, we're going to take a look at Pitfall. So Pitfall, I have on the Intellivision, and I have on the 2600. It's a really old cartridge. Look at that. It still works great though. And then I have the Atari 8-bit computer version of Pitfall. And I don't have Pitfall on the 5200. I have Pitfall 2, but I don't have I'm not even sure if it ever came out for the 5200. But if it were to ever come out, it would be basically the same as the 8-bit computer version. So let's take a look at Pitfall. and compare what we see. All right, so here's the 2600 version. It's a little bit dark, and that's just because, the video signal that comes out of my Atari. This is from my 7800 running a 2600 game. The video that comes out is a little bit dark. But the game is great. The game looks great and it plays great. Even though this is just the standard 2600 version of Pitfall. As long as I highly recommend you plug yourself up a Master System controller or a Genesis controller or something like that and play this with a D-pad, because old school Atari 2600 with a regular joystick is kind of difficult, and the 7800 joysticks are kind of weird. I don't hate them, but I would definitely do a lot better with a D-pad. But this is your standard Pitfall. This is what everybody probably remembers when they think about Pitfall. Of course, we didn't have it on the 2600 when I was a little kid. We got it later on the 2600, but this is the version right here on the Intellivision that I grew up with. This is the version that we played. And for all intents and purposes, this is exactly the same as the 2600 version. Graphically, I think it might be slightly different. There might be a little bit more detail in some things. But as far as sound, as far as gameplay, as far as anything like that, it's basically the same game. I wouldn't say there's any significant difference between the two versions. This version does look a lot brighter, but like I said, that's just, that's the console putting out a brighter image. That's not something that would have been a problem, if you were playing it on the 2600 back in the day. You would have just adjusted your TV brightness to whatever you felt was correct. But it is worth noting that there is a difference in the brightness as far as what the signal is. So yeah, it's the same game. There's really not any difference. Some games you can see a significant difference between the 2600 and the Intellivision. This is not one. But I will tell you, there is a significant difference in the 8-bit computer version. You can see here, it is quite a bit more detailed. The colors are different. The animation is different. The sound is considerably different. This is like the definitive version of Pitfall as far as anything that I've seen. This is a really nice version of Pitfall. You can tell the detail is a lot higher. Like I said, the music, what little music there is, the sound effects, all these things, it just looks so much better. So if you had a choice of which version to play, I'm obviously going to recommend that you play the computer version. The Atari computer version. Now, does that mean there aren't better versions out there for other 8-bit computers, or I don't know. I couldn't really tell you. But of the ones that we're looking at today, I think by far this is the best one. But what a great game too. What an awesome platformer. If you never really played Pitfall, you definitely should check it out. So, definitely a game I would recommend. This next game, the last game we're going to look at, is Star Wars Empire Strikes Back. I grew up playing this on the 2600, and I just picked it up on Intellivision. And to add to that, I discovered that this game is on the Atari 8-bit computer as well. And this is an interesting one because each version of this game looks quite a bit different. and sounds different, has different things going on. This one's fascinating to me, and I have to really spend some extra time comparing these beyond this video. I have to keep playing these because as I'm discovering the differences, it's pretty amazing to me, because like I said, I did grow up playing this, and I have always enjoyed this game. Even now, I love playing this version. Which version is going to look the best? Which will sound the best? And believe it or not, there's a difference in gameplay. Which version will I prefer to play? Let's take a look here at Empire Strikes Back and see what's up. First up, we have the 2600 version. And the 2600 version is pretty standard. You've got, but here, look at this, parallax scrolling. And I'll tell you this, the Intellivision version also has that. The Intellivision version also has parallax scrolling. Now, pay attention to, there's details to pay attention to here. The details in your ship, in the walkers, in how they, how they behave, and what's going on with them. You notice the little multicolored dot that appears on the walkers once in a while. If you shoot that, you can instantly kill a walker, but man, sometimes it's difficult to do. The controls on the 2600 version are very snappy. I'm really used to this version, so obviously I think it's a lot of fun. Notice when your ship dies, it breaks apart as it falls down. You have the different colors to reflect like how much damage you've taken and how much damage the walkers have taken. So yeah, just pay attention to how the game like actually plays and the details that you're seeing. Okay, here we go. Now here's the Intellivision version. All right. And you'll notice right away it looks a little bit different. Now it still has that parallaxing effect, although it's not nearly as smooth of animation. But the detail is quite a bit higher. And you can see your ship looks more like, one of those speeders. And the walkers have a little bit more detail in their animation and then, the size of them and everything. So there is some differences here in the graphics, how they look, how the game animates, and all this is going to affect the gameplay as well. It moves a little bit clunkier, if I was to be completely fair. I think the 2600 version has the smoothest animation and gameplay. Although there's quite a bit, like I said, of enhancements to the graphics here as far as what you're seeing. And the sound is a little bit different as well. But yeah, you can, there's more things, on the screen. There's more to see. And there's more going on in the Intellivision version. Not necessarily going to say that means that I prefer that version. Now here's the 8-bit computer version, and this one is quite a bit different. The sound is a lot different. The graphics are tremendously different. The controls are totally different. There's no parallaxing. You can see there's a lot. It's all gray in the background. Look at the walkers, and look how your shots are. Now you can shoot in various different directions, which is actually kind of not a good thing because it makes it harder. Animations are, it's just totally different. It's the same but different. It's like I've never, I didn't grow up playing this, so. And look at that, like you blow up the walker and it's like its destroyed carcass remains on the ground. Even when you fly back over here, you're gonna still see that it's still there. there's some strange elements to this version that are just not present in the other two. You can actually, I don't know exactly how it happens, but sometimes when your ship gets destroyed, and it looks more like a ship in this than it does a speeder, you can actually get out as a little dude, walk around, and try to shoot the walker up from the ground. It's very strange. Very unique version of the game. Let me see if I can show you that real quick. Because it is such a different element that you don't see in the other versions. Yeah, let me bring this up here and show you. All right, I'm gonna go back to it. Here we go. So yeah, you can see I'm having a lot of trouble killing these walkers because the shots go in different directions, and they get too close to your base, and the screen starts doing that, which is totally different. You have the little drones, the droids flying around. It's just so much different. Now look, see, you get out, you're walking around as a little dude, and you can shoot up at the walkers and try to kill them that way. It's like, it's so crazy. It's the same game, but it's not the same game. It's very interesting. Yeah, but the question is, which version do I like the best? Well, I mean, personally, I think I'm just always going to prefer the 2600 version because that's what I grew up with, and I think I'm most used to it. I don't really have any major issues with the Intellivision version. I think it looks better in some ways, but in some ways it doesn't because it's a little choppy, I think, but definitely more detailed. But that XEGS version or 8-bit computer version, I don't know, it's so weird. I want to like it a lot, but it's going to take some getting used to. Centipede, I'm going to go with the 7800 version. I think I have a soft spot for the 5200 version because I just really like that console a lot. But I mean, it's the better version. It is. And as far as Pitfall goes, I don't think there's any question. Regardless of my nostalgia, the 8-bit computer version, the Atari 8-bit computer Pitfall is so much better. It really is. So yeah. And you can use a Genesis controller or Master System controller or something like that to play on your 8-bit computer. So I think that's the way to go. So yeah, the Intellivision offers some great versions of these games. And I think in any of these comparisons, if you're comparing the 2600 version to the Intellivision's a superior console. And I think that all the versions are superior, except, like I said, Empire Strikes Back, I like the 2600 version the best. But yeah, that doesn't mean that the Intellivision version beats everything. There are other consoles out there like the ColecoVision. I don't know I've never owned a ColecoVision, but it would be worth investigating the different versions of the multiplats that are on that as well. And then of course, like I said, there's the 8-bit computers, and the Atari 8-bit computers are phenomenal. I really enjoy the games on that platform. And that's basically the same hardware as 5200, so kind of the same thing. But it's really cool to check out these games and see what makes them different and see what makes them unique. How does the Intellivision controller work with the games, and what options does it offer? Are they the same or different? You can see like on the Intellivision version, like for instance with Empire Strikes Back, how you could select different things, players and difficulty and stuff like that. They put it right there on the screen. Um, yeah. So yeah, it's up to you which version you want to play or which ones you think are the best. I'd be very curious to know your thoughts if you have tried any of these games on these older consoles and computers and stuff. I'd be very curious, you know, maybe you've played these games on like an old IBM DOS PC or on Apple computers or, you know, Commodore or Amiga or something like that. I'd be very curious about what your thoughts are, because I'm always learning and exploring and trying out more of these things that I never really have been exposed to. So if any of this has helped you, awesome. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you have any suggestions for me to try stuff or information about any of these games that I maybe you think I don't know or anything like that, please let me know as well. So there you go. It's not all about Intellivision. Intellivision is a part of all of this, but it's not all about Intellivision. You know, as a retro gamer, as somebody who appreciates older tech and older consoles and older experiences, I personally am always trying to, you know, put my foot out in the water and and see what the temperature is on all the different things that I can. So yeah, I'll continue to have Intellivision videos obviously on this channel, but we're gonna, you know, invite other consoles and computers and things to participate. And you're invited to participate in the chat or when I do streams or in the comment section for a video like this. So anyway, I'm going to stop yapping now. Those are some comparisons of 3 different games that I own on Intellivision and different versions for different things that I have as well. So hopefully you liked it, and there'll be more coming soon. But that's it for now. I'm Cy, and I will talk to you again later. Bye-bye.